Hey, it is Thursday. We are very close to Friday, and I'm sure everybody's excited about that. I am ready for a nice, relaxing weekend myself. So we will see if that is in the cards for me. Hey, I am wondering if that's Sylvia again, since Facebook doesn't like to show me what her name is when I use StreamYard. But today, we are going to go ahead and talk about what if it wasn't called lead generation. Hey, Krissa, thank you for being here. Uh, so yeah, for those of you watching live, hashtag live or emojis, or you can do it like Krissa and whoever I think the other person is Sylvia in terms of just dropping a hey. You guys know I love watching the comments and I live for the comments. I can tell it's Tim. Oh, it's Tim this time. All right, Tim, my bad. The last live on Tuesday, it was Sylvia. So, but yes, it's just a, oh shoot. I was kind of mulling this over. This idea here is what if we didn't call it lead generation anymore? And so that's just real quick what I'm gonna do. And oh, Tim, you're gonna appreciate this. I never do this, but I'm having some coffee right now. It's one of those days. As you can probably tell, Tim, since I wasn't in your clubhouse room, it's one of those days. Um, but yeah, so what I'd like to know is when we say lead generation, what comes to mind for you? Um, for me, it's, tactics and approaches. And I always think of the little, like, the little bathroom icons, like the little man icon and the little woman icon. They don't have any face. They don't have any defining features except, he's got like his straight lines and then she's got the triangle thing going on. That is typically what I think of. It's very faceless. I think of the funnel, right? The big sales funnel, big marketing funnel, and you're just trying to get as many people as possible into it. All the people into the funnel, right? So that's typically what I think of. Krissa loves coffee too. Normally I drink tea. I'll be honest. But yeah, so that's what I think of when I think of lead generation. It's just so, just trying to stuff these people in the funnel, these faceless people that I've attracted on the internet through a variety of tactics and approaches. But what if we need less leads and more relationships? What if it wasn't called lead generation, but it was called relationship generation? I'm going to pause there for a second so I can have another sip of my coffee. I put cocoa powder in mine so it gets chocolatey. It's my fave. Right. So, what if it wasn't called lead generation and instead we called it relationship generation? Imagine, if you will, imagine that you're a client. Imagine that you're a client and we sit down, right? And I replace the question, what does your lead gen look like? Because that's what a lot of, marketing, branding, sales, like that's what us business people talk about. Like when we're in business consulting, if we niche down like I do, I'm in like brand and marketing, but like I know people who are specifically in sales. I know people who are specifically in biz ops, right? Or that's business operations. But what if we sat down, right? And this is me and you, you're a client. So normally I would say, so what's your lead generation? What did that look like for you this week? And instead, right, instead of asking that question, I say, so what was your relationship generation like this week? Did you create opportunities or did you step into opportunities to, start some new relationships or nurture relationships you already had? Tell me about that. So I want you to think back on the last 7 days. How did you create situations or step into situations that allowed you to create new relationships or nurture the relationships you already had? Yes. Relationship building is what builds the leads. And that's the thing though, is that's why I'm like, when I say leads, I think of like again, that little faceless icon, right? But when I say relationship, then I'm thinking, oh, this is why I like Clubhouse, right? This is why I like Clubhouse, because I don't see lead generation there. I do see everybody's little, picture icon, but what I see is like, oh, like that's the potential. Like if we're talking, like that's the potential for a relationship there, right? Like when I go into Tim's room, like those are people I see, like they've seen me quite a few times. And so I feel like even just a little bit, right? Like we kind of have this relationship, these budding relationships that I have with each of the regulars who go, and they get to know me and I get to know them. And that's relationship building, right? And so I'm thinking like, why even say the word leads at this point? I'm not even this big company. Most of my clients aren't giant companies. They're very intimate with their employees. Yes, Krissa, that's what I do. I just make stuff up. But I love them. And then let's increase relationship generation with authentic marketing strategies. Woo! So what does that look like? And so for me, it's always looked like, okay, this is why. So the workshop I did on Friday, boom, that's why workshops are going to be a permanent part of my approach, because it's not, it's not marketing for me exactly, although I did market it. But when we got into the workshop, and this is actually going to be the topic of tomorrow's live, but when we got into the workshop, we worked. I attended a workshop yesterday that was not a workshop. It was a webinar where they were just like, oh, and just dragged it out forever, right? But when we sat down for the workshop on Friday, we worked. We had a task. We accomplished that task. We accomplished the mission, developed relationships, started new ones. And that, I think, was kind of the basis for this idea. And so that is what I want to offer to you, is to not look at it as lead generation, right? Because then you're thinking, okay, I got to post on Instagram. I got to post on LinkedIn, got to post on Facebook or whatever, right? But if you were looking at relationship generation, how would your focus change? Right? Here we go. So yeah, it makes so much sense, because a bunch of leads can end up with a small handful of quality relationships. Relationship building before having someone as a lead changes everything. It absolutely does, because the trust is there. Right? The trust is there. And that, I think, is the most important thing that those of us who, I describe us as very soul driven, as very heart driven people. For those of us like that, I think that's the most important thing we can have. It is so much harder to be nervous and questioning myself when we have a relationship and you already know I want you to succeed. I know, looking at you, that you're like, no, I'm going to tell Ruthie exactly what it is, and we'll see if this is a good fit or not. And I know that that's true as well. For example, when I did the role play call with Krissa, we did a role play sales call, and we got to talk about some other things about her business. And and then a few days later, she kind of spitballed me some ideas for new services. So for those of y'all that don't know, Krissa is my podcast consultant. I'm like, oh, okay, well, if you actually do that, we should talk about it and see if that would be a good fit for me. Easy. You think she's going to be nervous on the phone with me? Maybe a little bit, but not a lot compared to trying to talk to somebody who's just, completely, oh, she filled out my contact form. Let me go talk to her, And even meeting Krissa, we were introduced via Sylvia. So there was like prior relationship there. So Krissa already started out like quite a far ahead in terms of somebody I would have interviewed, that I didn't know. So it's just kind of an example of how those relationships can serve you and how your relationships can support you. But I want you to think back, okay, what are my opportunities for relationship generation? How am I creating an environment around me where my relationships can thrive and grow? So for me, I love the workshop. So I'm going to try to do at least one workshop a month. And then I've got some speaking engagements this month. I've got one towards the end of April, and I've got one in person at the very, very beginning of May. So that's going to be a very busy week. I've got another one in June already, but these are opportunities for me to demonstrate expertise, sure. But the way that I like to do even my speaking engagements, it's meant to be pretty interactive, and I can kind of talk and take questions, but I want to develop relationships. So I encourage people, follow up with me after this. Absolutely, because I'm looking to generate relationships. So that's what I'm going to leave you with today. Instead of asking yourself what your lead gen looks like, I want you to think about how you can create more opportunities for relationship generation, or how you can step into opportunities for relationship generation. Okay. And so, yep, that's it for today. And then I just wanted to let you know, remind you the first episode of our interview series with Christina Baker, who is she works with the social justice organization Dream Corps. Amazing talking to her. The work that they're doing, just fantastic and fabulous. And so this week we're going to learn more about her entrepreneur journey. I guess her professional journey. I don't know. She feels like an intrapreneur to me. So somebody who is an employee technically, but she just got the entrepreneur mindset. So make sure you check that out. That went live today. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you want to support that organization, we've got the links and everything like that. So I will talk to you guys later. But tomorrow's topic, we're going to be talking about this whole, it's a workshop, but it's not really a workshop. It's actually a webinar meant to sell you something. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. Hate it.